You are listening to The Growth Signal. My name is Alyssa Nolte,
And I'm Kelly Schuknecht.
and we're going to get right into it. Kelly, what is your hot take?
My hot take is the imposter never has the syndrome.
Okay, I am desperate to have this conversation, mostly because I have no idea what you mean by this, and that makes me so excited. So tell us, what do you mean the imposter doesn't have the syndrome? What does that mean?
So, have you heard of imposter syndrome?
I eat, sleep, and breathe imposter syndrome, I feel
Yes.
like. Every
I think
day is me waking up wondering if I'm good enough to do anything in this life. So, yes.
we all do, right? We struggle so much, so many of us, especially women, we struggle with imposter syndrome. Who am I? Who am I to be teaching somebody something or getting on stage or being the person that people are looking at, right? And I did a post recently on LinkedIn where I was talking about the path to overcoming imposter syndrome. And somebody responded saying that their motto is the imposter never has the syndrome. And I can't stop talking about this because I think of people who are on TikTok or on LinkedIn, they're on these social media platforms and they are the expert. They know everything, right? And they're out there, teaching people how to do things. And then you might look at their following or what they've done or their business and you realize that really they aren't what they are projecting themselves to be. Meanwhile, those of us who have experience, have skills, have, the background, we doubt ourselves and we have a hard time showing up as that expert. But really, when it comes down to it, the imposter doesn't have the syndrome. If you have imposter syndrome, it's often because you want to show up in a way that's helpful. You want to be you want to help people. You want to be the expert, right? But you doubt yourself and you got to get over it.
I am going to like tattoo that on my forehead so I can
Right,
see it every
right.
single morning because I had a conversation with a friend of mine and it was just general frustration and what I called the audacity. Like the people that I was watching and kind of following online on social media on LinkedIn who get all this engagement, have all these followers and seem to be so successful and they get all these opportunities and I'm like it's just because they have the audacity to ask when they have no business asking, and I, who have business asking, don't have the audacity to ask, and so I just need more audacity. But then I found myself obsessing over these people and looking at them and being like, "You're just a mediocre man, and why do you have what I deserve?" And I realized that I was, like, spiraling myself down rather than doing what I should be doing, which is having the audacity, putting myself out there and, being okay with the fact that maybe I'm not gonna get all the engagement that they do, but I'm going to get something that I deserve and that if I just put myself out there, it will come my way eventually.
Absolutely. And you know what? The thing is, you mentioned, I might not get all the engagement that they get. That's another thing that I've just been really leaning into recently is that people are obsessed with their followers. They're obsessed with their number of subscribers, but those numbers really don't matter. You could have a million followers, and if only 5 of them are your real target audience, then the number doesn't matter. What really matters is that your content or what you're putting out there, your message is reaching the people that it's intended to reach, and if that's 25 people, that's okay.
I can't tell you how many times I have gotten a private message from someone who said something like, "I saw your post. I really needed to see that. I loved that." And they gave 0 engagement on said post. And I was like,
Yes.
"Babe, please just throw me a like then,
Yes.
because if you enjoyed it, you gotta tell the algorithm, right?" And it's so funny how the algorithm is designed or the infrastructure, the vanity metrics, the likes and everything is designed to tell the algorithm what you're experiencing. But if you're writing only for the algorithm, only controversial takes or only things that, people are jumping on because it feels good to jump on, you might not actually be delivering value. Because I wonder how many people get private messages when their post goes viral saying, "I needed to see that. I needed to hear that." I'm sure they get a fair amount, but it's still happening even though you're not getting that vanity like, that vanity comment. Don't get me wrong, please like my posts if you see them, it makes me feel really good. But that's all it does for me is make me feel good, it doesn't actually do anything for me.
Right, right. Yeah, and the real way to get the return for what you're doing and showing up every day is by doing it consistently. So when you're showing up, doesn't have to be every day, but you're showing up on social media, you're showing up through your podcast or your content, um, over time This is another thing. So Gary Vee has this saying that the average person is one social media post away from a totally different life. And I believe that fully, and I'm sure you do too, Alyssa, because here we are, we're podcasters, we're social media people, right? Like, yes, we believe that one post might blow up and change our life. But the reality is, it's the showing up every day that's going to get you the consistent result. So, again, like, yes, if I have one post that goes out there and I get 25 clients overnight, great, like, that would be amazing, that would be life-changing, but the reality is I'm posting daily, and over time, I get 1 client this week, 1 client next week, 1 client 3 weeks from now, whatever, and that's what's gonna grow my business. It doesn't have to be some overnight success, it's the consistent approach to showing up and nurturing your target audience.
I do think though there is also an exercise in clarity, right? So if and this is one of the things that I struggle with because I am a perennially curious person. Like one week I will be super into vibe coding an app and I will spend an entire week like obsessively vibe coding this app. I actually just did this a few weeks ago where I vibe coded an app that was designed to connect you with people who had unique niche skills in your community. So for example, I have a bunch of plants that I need repotted, but I am not good at that, and I also don't like to touch dirt, which is funny with the number of, plants I have in my house. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I needed to be able to just, like, put a little ad out there, be like, 'Come over and repot my plants, and I'll pay you $5 per plant.'" Like, how else do I put that out there without being weird on Facebook? So I was vibe coding this app. I had the app all the way done, and now I've moved on to something else, and I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe I'll come back to that someday." And because I get, perennially curious about other things, I kind of get a warped sense of self, which I think can come through on social media, right? One week I'm talking about leadership. One week I'm talking about customer experience. One week I'm talking about research. One week I'm talking about go to market strategy. One week I'm talking about health scores. Everything doesn't always fit neatly into it. So, how do you craft a personal brand that is clear and resonates with people, but still reflects who I authentically am, which is someone who likes to do a lot of things?
I That resonates with me so much because I developed my own personal brand completely accidentally by doing the same thing, right? Like, really, I was working in publishing and started a blog, and at that time, that was kind of more there wasn't a lot of social media 15 years ago, it was more like blogging, and so I started this blog, and I started kind of, observing what other bloggers were doing, and I was, talking about how to promote your book with social media because Facebook was, like, brand new at the time, right? So I was doing that, but then I was also like I was showing up on all these different platforms and trying different things. And to me, that was just kind of experimental. It's like I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about that, I'm going to see what people are interested in, what resonates with people. I think that's fine to do for a period of time. And then I think, what's happened to me over the last couple of years of my life is I kind of discovered my niche and where I fit best when it comes to blogging, my business, social media, all of those things. And so now I try to be very focused on the areas that make sense for the personal brand that I have kind of grown into, that I have developed. So I think again, I think it's okay to play around and have fun and try different things on social media or wherever you're showing up. But ultimately, if you want to grow a following, you kind of have to have a niche. And that niche doesn't have to be like it's only this thing I talk about every single day. You can show your real life too, because that's what personal branding is about, right? It's showing up and people connect with you as a person. So it's okay to show parts of your life that aren't part of your niche specifically, but the majority of your content should be the niche, niche specific and what people are gonna get and learn from you.
It's really important too not to overwhelm yourself because there are so many social media platforms out there, and I'm slowly been adding over time, right? Like I focus mostly on LinkedIn and podcasting. Now I'm adding Substack. I'm toying with like TikTok and Instagram, but I haven't committed to those yet. Mostly because like I don't have time to do all of the things,
Oh,
so I have to just allocate my time resource very very carefully. But as I'm looking around and trying to figure out, what does it mean to be successful in this personal brand building, and bringing it back to your original comment of, like, they're going to get all this engagement. They might get all these likes and these comments and reposts, but what is that doing for them? How can we figure out how we measure success of our personal brand for us personally, and what that looks like for us? Because it's not universal. It's not the same metric for every single person.
Right. I think the first thing is you have to identify what is your goal? Why are you doing it? And for me, for many, many years, it was just testing. I was testing different things. It was kind of like that what you were talking about. It's like I was just really interested in it. So to me, it was like, you know, back in the day when I was active on Twitter, it's like what are the things I can talk about that people will um engage with, that they'll be interested in, that they'll share, that they'll comment on. And so for a long time, I was just playing around with it, and that really wasn't trying to accomplish anything. But over time, I was a little more active in the talking about book marketing and publishing and those types of things. And I randomly had people come to me on social media, and ask me, or they'd email me through my website and ask me if I could help them with their book marketing. And I was like, "Oh," like, I realized, "Oh, these things I'm putting out there are resulting in people going, 'Oh, this person could probably help me,'" right? And so it wasn't really why I was doing it. I was more so just kind of, it was like a playground for me. But it started turning into, author coaching clients, and I started doing that just on the side of my business. Um, and then I launched my real business, last year, and started getting a lot more dialed with my content at that time. But all of that to say, like, now I need to be very specific about what are my goals now. Well, my goals now are, it with building my personal brand is I I am looking for, like, what is coming up in the future. I'm going to have this course. I'm going to launch a course on personal branding, teaching people how to launch, or how to build their own personal brand, right? So some of the things I'm doing now are kind of dripping that topic so that people who are following me when I launch the course will get that information, and will sign up for the course, right? So that's my goal. So I think you have to know, what is your goal? Is it getting clients? Are you launching a book? Are you launching a course? Are you maybe you're building your personal brand because you want to eventually leave your job and have other opportunities. So you have to know what that goal is, and then be strategic and intentional with your content in order to help you reach that goal. So as far as like what the actual KPIs are, the actual things are that you can measure, it really depends on what your goals are. But again, don't get caught up. I think so many people get caught up on I I want a million followers. That's not the goal. That's not the goal, unless you're gonna be a full-time influencer someday, which you might think that that's what's gonna happen, but the reality is probably not, right? So, what's the way you can monetize what you're doing now? And again, that might look like very different things for different people, but then set your goals, or your what you want to measure around what those things are that make sense for what that overall goal is that you want to achieve.
I was at a entrepreneur club meeting at my local university, and they wanted me to come basically do a little, like, TED Talk on how to start a podcast, right? And so I came in and I said, "I'm not gonna talk to you about any of the logistics of starting a podcast, because that's usually where people start. They get a fancy microphone." Spoiler alert, this is where I started too. They get a fancy microphone, they get a ring light, they get a nice webcam, they come up with a beautiful brand, they create a name, and then they end up posting less than 10 episodes, and they flame out maybe after 3 or 4.
Yep.
I told someone yesterday, if you post more than 10 episodes, you're in the, like, top 1% of all
Yep.
podcasts on Apple or something like that. So, a lot of podcasts flame out. And my theory was, and the reason I wanted to talk to them and say, I'm not going to talk to you about those things, is that you have to have a very clear understanding of why you are starting this podcast. So there's a couple different reasons you might start a podcast. You might want to experiment and play, and you just want to talk into a microphone and have fun. And that's a totally legitimate reason to start a podcast, right?
Yep.
You might want to be famous and gain followers, and that might be something that you want to do. Another legitimate reason. You might want to, I talked to someone who wanted to write a book, and his podcast was his way of doing content synthesis. So he was talking into the microphone and seeing what resonated with the audience, so he knew
Yep.
what to put into the book. And I was like, oh my God, that's so smart. So
Yeah.
he didn't really care about how many followers he had. It was more of an exercise in creation for him.
Yes.
And then you might want to generate opportunities, whether that's speaking opportunities, business opportunities, build your personal brand so that you have something after, whatever you're doing now. But all of those are different strategies to start and promote, or to the format and the promotion strategy for your podcast. If you want to be famous, you better be posting that in short form clips. You need to be hot take and controversial. You need to be very opinionated, and you need to be very loud about your promotion of it, right? If that's your goal. And you need to be okay you if it takes time, because it will. If you want opportunities, maybe you don't care as much about how many people listen to the show, but what is it driving for how people think about you and how people, talk to you. I recently had a prospective client quote me back to me from the podcast because he liked what he heard. And that's the reason he reached out and asked me to bid on a project, is because he liked what he heard. And it was the weirdest experience having him tell my own story back to me. It was great, it was awesome. But being really clear about what that outcome looks like so you can strategize around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love all those different examples that you shared about the ways that people use podcasting. And that's the same with your personal brand. It's like there's so many different things that you could be why you should be building your personal brand. And sometimes you don't even know what it is, right? Like I was building my personal brand in my career on LinkedIn. I was talking about certain topics and I had no real intention for it at the time. But when I launched my business, people knew who I was because of the things I was talking about. And, I now also think about like the overnight success. Things look like an overnight success when you don't look at what all led to what was happening, before, right? So for 7 years, I was building a personal brand in my previous role as an employee. I was very intentional about it, and when I launched my business, my it seems like it just, like, took off overnight. Well, again, people knew who I was. I was networking. I was showing up online. So when I said, "This is what I'm doing in my business," they already associated me with what my business was about, and it took off very quickly. Um, and you're right on the podcast piece about I went to, Podcast Movement back in, I think, August. Um and at that conference, I learned that like, uh, most people who start a podcast, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's something like of everyone who starts a podcast, only like 10% make it past like episode number 7. And then
That's
of
wild.
those people, only like 10% make it past episode number 21. Because I think if people get this wild hair, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, right? But they don't really have a good goal and intention for what they're doing. Um, but you don't have to necessarily have some intention of becoming an influencer, becoming a full-time podcaster. There's different reasons to do it, and there's different reasons to show up with your social media as well. So I think for each person, it's just really important to know what's that internal drive and why are you being called to do this, and then make sure that it makes sense with what your goals are.
What do you think is people's biggest blind spot when they start a personal brand?
I think um, so. We talked about imposter syndrome at the beginning of this episode, and I think that it's the cross between a few things, right? So imposter syndrome, fear, fear of showing up online. So not just like, who am I to do this, but also like, I don't want people looking at me. I also think and we talked about this a little bit already too, the clarity piece. I call that your authority X factor. I think that people are often very confused about how they should show up, what they should talk about, right? And they might be, like you said, all over the place. But I think one of the things I did well when I started my business was I really thought hard about what made me unique. What was the thing I had done, or what were the things I had done in my career, the experience that I had that when I started my business made the most sense for me to be able to help people, right? I thought about being a fractional CMO because there's a lot of fractional service providers out there, and I was like, "Yeah, that's what I'll just do that." Like, I'll help people develop their marketing departments and, um, right? But then when I thought about that, I was like, "That just feels unclear." It feels like I don't really know how I can help you, and so I wanted to be very specific about how I can help business owners, and the way that I positioned that was I want to help business owners develop their thought leadership platform, or in other ways that I call it, their personal brand, right? And so because I was very specific about that, it really resonated. It wasn't just, I can help you with marketing. It was, I can help you get on stages. I can help you be seen as the expert in your professional network. That means a lot more than I can just help you in general, right? So I think it's that authority X factor, getting clear about who you are, what makes you different from your competitors or from the other people that are out there doing similar things, and why should people um, hire you, know you, trust you, sign up for whatever you're doing, whatever you're providing.
If someone is hearing this and they're hearing your call, if you will, to start doing this, what should they do next? Like, what is the one thing that you would have them start doing if they feel like it's time to start really taking their personal brand seriously?
Yeah. Well, I will. So I'm going to direct you to something that I have that's a tool that will help you. So, really, I mean, I think that we identified the first step is that identifying your authority X factor, right? Um, so that's the first thing. But second thing is, if you're serious about this, I have on my website on 2milehighmarketing.com, I have a quiz that helps people. It's a scorecard. So it gives you a score. It takes 3 minutes. You go through it, you answer some questions, and it helps you see where you stand as a thought leader. And then it helps you think through some of the things that you could be working on if you want to develop your thought leadership platform. So it gives you those kind of tools to then take and go, okay, here's what I need to work on. I need to, I need to be producing content. I need to be showing up online. I need to have a lead magnet. I need to have, whatever. These are just top of mind things I'm rattling off, but it will give you very specific things that you could be working on if you really wanna start leaning into that personal brand and showing up.
Considering all of the people that you know or aspire to know, who else is out there? Who else should we be paying attention to?
Somebody that I came across recently, now I mentioned this to my son and he already knew who this person was, so I was like, maybe I'm behind, a little bit, but I think it's Alex Hormozy. Do you know of him, Alyssa?
I don't, but I should because I have a 10-year-old who's chronically online. So, Alex, so tell me more.
Yeah. So, I honestly, I don't even know what the one business he always wears on his, it's like always on his shirt. But I have been obsessed with his content recently. I came across him on TikTok, and my son's a little older, so he's 16, but he already knew of Alex's book. So he has several books. I think he teaches a lot about business, about I think personal branding, entrepreneurship, those kinds of things. And I don't know, I've just been obsessed with his content lately. And he and his wife both, she's also an entrepreneur and a CEO of a company, and they both keep showing up in my feed, and I cannot stop watching their content.
Okay, I just looked him up on my TikTok because I was like, I need to know who this is. I did know who this was. I had no idea what his name was. I just thought of him as the guy with the beard and always wears the tank tops
Yes, the tank tops and the nose thing. Like
and the
very
nose thing.
weird.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. No, I
um,
have seen him. All over my. He's all over my feed as well. We're probably on the same for you
yeah,
page algorithm.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But I
Cool. Well,
love
we
it.
will
I like
definitely check him out.
I love the things that he's talking about, and it's for me, it's inspirational. It's like those little nuggets of inspiration I need each day to, like, remind me to just keep going. Just, like, be strategic, keep showing up, keep producing content, and it's not in the, like, "You're gonna blow up overnight," like, these gimmicky type, things that you see. It's valuable. I like his content a lot.
I'm gonna add him to my following so I see him a little bit more. But if someone is really connecting with you, they want to learn more, they want to check out the thought leadership scorecard, or they just want to follow along with your journey, where can they find you online?
Yeah. So, that 2milehighmarketing.com is where you can find that scorecard. I am working on a course that will be coming out soon. So, if you're wanting to learn more about personal branding, connect with me. TikTok is a great place, but also LinkedIn. Everything is under my name, which is hard to spell, and so I'm sure Alyssa will
I
have
will
that in
link it
the
in
show
the
notes
notes.
for you. Yes.
Yes, I will. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved this conversation and I loved where your thought process went with the fact that the imposter never has the syndrome. I am going to be quoting that at everybody I see on the street.
Yes, absolutely. It's my favorite quote now.
Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks.